Friend.
One of the stars of Friends had just $11 in his bank account when he got the role. One of them was a terrible waitress who kept getting fired. One of them wanted to be a professional tennis player. One of them was studying biology and planning to work in medical research. And one of them didn't even want to do television at all. And somehow, they all ended up on the same show. But the reason Friends worked so well is because they weren't really acting. They were basically playing themselves. If you enjoy revisiting classic shows like this, consider subscribing to Backtrack Television because we're going to be diving into a lot more stories like this. Friends premiered in 1994, and it looked like a show about 6 friends in New York who had life figured out. They had apartments, jobs, relationships, and they spent an incredible amount of time sitting on a couch in a coffee shop in the middle of the day, somehow not working. But if you actually watch closely, you realize something. They didn't have life figured out at all. Ross spent most of the show getting divorced. Rachel was trying to figure out her career. Joey couldn't get acting jobs. Chandler had a job nobody understood, including him. Monica was trying to prove she was successful. Phoebe was just trying to survive her own past. It was a show about that stage of life where everyone else looks like they know what they're doing, and you don't. And when the show started, the actors felt the exact same way. They were broke. They were lost. They were changing careers. They were going to auditions and getting rejected. They were trying to figure out if their lives were actually going to work out. So to understand Friends, you have to go back to who they were before the show. And the most unbelievable story of all might be Matt LeBlanc. Matt LeBlanc did not grow up in Hollywood. He grew up in a working-class town in Massachusetts, and his dad was a mechanic. So he grew up around engines, tools, garages, fixing things, building things, working with his hands. Not scripts, not auditions, not movie sets. Long before acting, he worked as a carpenter, real carpentry. Early mornings, long days, job sites, sawdust everywhere, measuring, cutting, sanding, building cabinets, building furniture, whatever job he could get. Acting wasn't the safe plan. Carpentry was the safe plan. Acting was the thing you try when you're young and not sure what else to do yet. So for a while, his life looked like this. During the day, he worked construction and carpentry jobs. And when he wasn't doing that, he was driving across Los Angeles going to auditions. And auditions are a strange thing. You drive across the city, sit in a waiting room with 20 other guys who look exactly like you. You go into a room, try to be funny or charming or memorable for about 90 seconds, and then you leave. And most of the time, you never hear anything again. Imagine going to job interviews where they never call you back, but they also never tell you no. That's what being a struggling actor is like. He started getting small commercial jobs, ketchup commercials, jeans commercials, and if you're a struggling actor, a commercial isn't just a commercial. That's rent, that's groceries, that's gas money, that's I can keep doing this for another month. But the money didn't come in consistently, so he kept working carpentry jobs, kept building cabinets, kept working with his hands, and kept going to auditions in between. At one point, he needed new headshots for auditions but couldn't afford to fix a chipped tooth, so he literally filed his own tooth down so it would look better in pictures. That's not a story about a guy who thought he was going to be famous. That's a story about a guy who was just trying to get a job. And while Matt LeBlanc was doing carpentry jobs and driving to auditions, Jennifer Aniston was across the country in New York, living a completely different life, but struggling just as much. Jennifer Aniston grew up around actors, but her childhood wasn't perfect. Her parents divorced when she was young, and she struggled in school because of dyslexia, which made school frustrating and made her feel like she just wasn't very good at anything academic. But then she found acting in high school, and for the first time, she felt confident. Acting was the first thing she ever did where she felt like, oh, I'm actually good at this. So she moved to New York to become an actress, and her early 20s looked like what a lot of people's early 20s look like. Small apartments, roommates, survival jobs, auditions during the day, work at night, and a lot of rejection. She was a waitress and has said she was terrible at it. Not average, terrible. She dropped plates, forgot orders, spilled drinks, which is funny now because she became famous, playing a waitress. But at the time, she wasn't playing Rachel, she was Rachel. And there's a big difference between pretending to be stressed about tips and actually needing the tips to pay rent. She also worked as a telemarketer and said she never made any sales, not one. So during the day, she was getting rejected on the phone, and then she would go to auditions and get rejected there too. That's a lot of rejection for one person. She worked as a bike messenger. She worked in timeshare sales. She took whatever job she could get while trying to make acting work. And then something started happening that really messes with your confidence. Every show she got cast on got canceled, over and over again. Imagine finally getting a role on a TV show, thinking this is it, this is the one, this is my break, and then the show gets canceled. And then it happens again, and again. After a while, you start to think maybe it's you. Maybe you picked the wrong dream. Maybe this isn't going to work. She was very close to quitting acting entirely. And while Jennifer Aniston was trying to figure out her life in New York, Matt LeBlanc was in Los Angeles still doing carpentry jobs and getting closer and closer to the point where he would have just $11 left in his bank account. Matthew Perry did not plan to become an actor. When he was growing up, his thing was tennis. Not casually playing tennis, competitive tennis. Early mornings, practice, matches, rankings, traveling for tournaments. He was good, really good. Ranked in Canada as a junior player. That was the plan. Go pro. That was the dream. And when you're a teenager and you have one thing you're good at, you build your whole identity around it. That becomes the thing you tell people when they ask what you're going to do with your life. I'm going to be a tennis player. But then he moved to Los Angeles and started playing against better competition. And this is a very specific moment that a lot of people have at some point in their life. The moment when you realize you're good, but you're not that good. Not good enough to make a career out of it. Not good enough to be one of the best in the world. And that's a hard realization because it means the life you pictured for yourself might not happen. So suddenly, the plan changes. And around this time, Matthew Perry realized there was something else he was good at. He could make people laugh. He was funny, sarcastic, quick with jokes. He became the funny guy, the class clown, the guy who could make a whole room laugh just by making one comment. And if you think about Chandler Bing, that's basically who Chandler is, the funny guy in the group. The guy who makes jokes when things get uncomfortable. The guy who uses humor as a shield. That wasn't acting, that was Matthew Perry. But his early acting career looked like everyone else's. Failed pilots, shows that didn't last, auditions that went nowhere. The kind of career where you're always close to something working, but it never quite works. Until he auditioned for a new sitcom, and the writers thought he was perfect because the character they had written on paper sounded exactly like the guy who walked into the room. Now at this point in the story, think about where they all were. Matt LeBlanc was still doing carpentry and commercial auditions. Jennifer Aniston was still working survival jobs and getting cast on shows that kept getting canceled. Matthew Perry had just given up on his tennis career and was trying to make it as an actor. And remember, one of them was getting closer and closer to having just $11 left. What makes this story even crazier is that one of them was fired from a major show just before Friends, and another almost didn't even take the role that made him famous. And if Friends had failed, their lives would have gone in completely different directions. But that's the part of the story most people don't know. Lisa Kudrow's story is completely different from the rest of them. She didn't move to Hollywood to become an actress. She didn't grow up wanting to be famous. She grew up in a very academic family. Her father was a doctor, and she was very smart in school. She earned a biology degree and planned to go into medical research. Her life was heading in a completely different direction, but she had a brother whose friend was involved in comedy and improv, and he encouraged her to try improv classes. And when she joined the Groundlings improv group in Los Angeles, she was not the loud, confident, funny person you might expect. She has said she was shy, quiet, nervous, and improv is terrifying when you're shy because you're standing on a stage with no script and you have to be funny in front of people immediately. But she kept doing it, and slowly, she got better. And then she started getting small acting roles. And then she got what should have been her big break, a role on Frasier. This was a huge opportunity, a big show, a real chance. And then after a few days of filming, she was fired and replaced. Imagine finally getting your big opportunity, calling your parents, telling your friends, "I made it, I'm on a big show." And then a few days later, it's gone. That kind of moment makes a lot of people quit. But not long after that, she auditions for a strange character named Phoebe Buffay, a character who doesn't quite fit in anywhere, who sees the world differently, who has a strange past and a different way of looking at life. And in a lot of ways, she understood that character, because she had never really followed the same path as everyone else. She was the biology major who ended up in improv, the quiet person who ended up playing the strangest character on the show. David Schwimmer was probably the most serious actor out of all of them. His parents were both lawyers, and they expected him to become a lawyer too. That was the plan. Law school, stable career, predictable life. But he fell in love with acting when he was young and decided that was what he wanted to do. And he took it very seriously. He studied theater, not television, theater, plays, stage acting. He even helped start a theater company. This is a very different world from sitcoms. Theater actors don't usually become global celebrities. They become respected actors. That was the path he thought he was on. Before Friends, he worked regular jobs to support himself while doing theater, including serving legal papers. And one of the people he once served legal papers to was Rod Stewart. That was his life before the show. Not red carpets, not interviews. Delivering legal documents and performing in plays. The character of Ross Geller was actually written specifically for him, And even then, he was hesitant to take the role because he didn't really want to do television. He wanted to be a serious actor. The role that would make him one of the most recognizable faces in the world, he almost didn't take. Courteney Cox's story was a little different from the rest of them. She grew up in Alabama in a wealthy family, and from the outside, her life probably looked more stable than the others. She originally went to college to study architecture, not acting. Acting wasn't the plan at first. Like a lot of people, she didn't start with a big dream to be a movie star. Modeling came first, then commercials, then small TV roles. Slowly, she started building a career, and then she got a moment that a lot of people remember, even if they don't realize it was her. She appeared in Bruce Springsteen's Dancing in the Dark music video, where he pulls her out of the crowd and dances with her on stage. Overnight, millions of people saw her face, and that led to more TV roles, more recognition. And by the time Friends started, she was the most recognizable face on the cast. But here's what's interesting. Even though she was the most famous one when the show started, she has said she was very insecure growing up. She has talked about being self-conscious, about wanting to prove herself, about wanting to be taken seriously as an actress. And when she was offered a role on Friends, they originally wanted her to play Rachel, the main character, the one they expected to be the breakout star. But she chose Monica instead. And that's an important decision, because Monica is not the obvious main character. Monica is the responsible one, the organized one, the one who has her life together, the one who takes care of everyone else. Every friend group has that person, the one who hosts everything, the one who cooks, the one who organizes, the one who seems like they have a plan. That was Monica. And in a lot of ways, Courteney Cox became that person for the cast in real life too. She was the most established, the most experienced, the one who understood how the industry worked a little better than the others when the show started. So while the others were still trying to figure out how their careers were going to work, Courteney Cox was the one who already had momentum. She's the contrast in the story, because when Friends began, it wasn't 6 unknown actors. It was 5 people who were still trying to make it, and 1 person who already had. And then the show became so big that it didn't matter anymore who had been famous before. Now they were all famous, together. Now at this point, think about where they all were in life. A carpenter, a struggling waitress, a failed tennis player, a biology major who got fired from a show, a theater actor delivering legal papers, and 1 working actress. And then they all get cast on the same show. And here's the important part. They had all been on shows that failed before. Sitcoms fail all the time. Pilots fail all the time. They weren't thinking, this is going to make us famous. They were thinking, this might pay the bills for a few years. Most people don't become successful in a straight line. It's usually more like this. Try something, fail. Try something else. Get a small opportunity, lose it, try again. And then one day, something works. But then the show started to get popular, and then it got really popular, and then it became one of the biggest shows in the world. And suddenly, their lives changed all at the same time. One day, you're going to auditions hoping to get 1 line on a TV show, and the next day, your face is on magazine covers in the grocery store. One day, you're worried about rent, and the next day, people are asking for your autograph at the airport. One day, you're a normal person, and the next day, you can't walk down the street without people recognizing you. And there's something very strange about becoming famous at the exact same time as 5 other people, because the only people who understand what's happening to you are the other 5 people. So they became very close in real life. And when the show became huge, they made a very unusual decision. They negotiated as a team, which meant no one was treated like the star. And in the end, they all became stars. By the final seasons, they were each making $1 million per episode, something that had never happened before on television. They didn't just play friends, they protected each other like friends. And this show didn't just make them famous. It gave all 6 of them something they had been trying to get for years, a real career, stability, a future they could count on. They filmed together for 10 years of their lives, from their late 20s into their late 30s. They didn't just work together, they grew up together. But of all of them, the story that best represents what Friends was really about is Matt LeBlanc. Because before Friends, Matt LeBlanc was the one who had almost run out of time. He wasn't rich. He wasn't even a successful actor yet. He was a guy in his 20s working carpentry jobs during the day, driving to auditions, doing commercials when he could get them, and trying to make just enough money to keep going for another month. And at one point, he had just $11 in his bank account. 11. And if you've ever been broke before, you know that feeling. You start doing math in your head for everything. How much is gas? How much is food? How long can I make this last? What bills can I wait to pay? What bills can't I wait to pay? You don't think in months when you're that broke. You think in days. That's where he was when he got the role of Joey Tribbiani. And when he got his first paycheck from Friends, the first thing he did was go out and buy a hot meal. Not a car, not a watch, not new clothes, a hot meal. And honestly, buying a hot meal with your first paycheck might be the most Joey Tribbiani thing anyone has ever done. The character who loved food more than anything was played by a guy who had finally reached the point where he could order whatever he wanted off the menu. And here's the part that's easy to forget now. If Friends doesn't work, their lives probably all go in completely different directions. Matt LeBlanc probably goes back to carpentry. Jennifer Aniston probably keeps waiting tables and going to auditions. Matthew Perry keeps bouncing between pilots that don't get picked up. Lisa Kudrow keeps doing small roles and maybe goes back to research. David Schwimmer stays in theater. Courteney Cox probably keeps acting because she already had momentum. This show didn't just make them famous, it changed the direction of all 6 of their lives. And that's why the show feels real when you watch it. Because when Joey was worried about auditions, Matt LeBlanc understood that. When Rachel was trying to figure out her career, Jennifer Aniston understood that. When Chandler used humor to hide his insecurity, that wasn't acting, that was Matthew Perry. When Ross was the academic who overthought everything, that was David Schwimmer. When Monica was trying to prove she had her life together, Courteney Cox understood that pressure. When Phoebe felt like the outsider, Lisa Kudrow understood that too. They weren't just playing characters, they were playing versions of themselves. And maybe that's why Friends still works all these years later. Because it's not really about New York, it's not really about Central Perk, and it's not even really about the jokes. It's about that time in your life when nothing is certain yet, when you don't really know where your career is going. You don't know who you're going to marry. You don't know where you're going to end up living, but you have your friends. And somehow, that's enough. And what makes the story of this cast so interesting is that when the show started, they were in that exact same stage of life too. A carpenter, a struggling waitress, a failed tennis player, a biology major who got fired from a show, a theater actor delivering legal papers, and one working actress. 6 people who were all just trying to figure out their lives, who ended up on one of the biggest shows in television history. And if Friends hadn't worked, their lives probably all would have gone in completely different directions. But it did work. And for 10 years, they didn't just play Friends on TV, they got to live that time of life together. And that's something most people only get once. But this wasn't the only cast whose story took a surprising turn. Some of the biggest shows of the 90s had behind-the-scenes moments that completely changed their legacy. And one of them is even more shocking than this. If you think this story was unexpected, wait until you see what happened next. Click the video on your screen now. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Backtrack Television, and let me know in the comments, which Friends character did you relate to the most?